And it's really, tremendous honor for the next group. I think it's so exciting to introduce Nina and Susan and Priscilla, the Women's Health Tech Avengers. They are the super trio leading the Women's Health Tech Initiative at HITLAB. One of the ways that HITLAB has, over the last few years, and really, with a whole series of leaders up until this point, have been pulling together amazing programs, amazing content, amazing connectivity, and capital. A lot of money's been raised for women's health tech startups and the startups in women's health. Nina is going to be talking with Susan and Priscilla about the issues that women's health tech leaders are facing today. And just super happy to have you all with us here. Thank you both. Thank you all three. And Nina?
Thank you, Stan. So hi, everyone. My name's Nina Roth, and I'm a master's candidate at Columbia Mailman School of Public Health. I'm also the lead coordinator of the Women's Health Tech Initiative at HITLAB. Our vision at Women's Health Tech Initiative is to improve women's health around the world by enabling women to have access to funding and scaling healthcare innovation through content, connectivity, and capital. We have a series of events throughout the year supporting the Femtech community. Joining me today is Susan Solinsky, who's the director of the Women's Health Tech Initiative. She's also the chief growth officer at Ellipsis Health and an active investor in women-led startups. And we also have Priscilla Beal, who's the chair of the executive committee and one of our sponsors of the Women's Health Tech Initiative. She's also the global head of partnerships at Bayer. So Priscilla, let's start with you. I know you've been an advocate for women's-led companies for many years. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey with women's health and why women's health is important to you?
Sorry to state the obvious, but women's health is very important to me because I am a woman who wants to be healthy. Supporting women generally is also a huge passion of mine. I'm raising a young woman, soon to be young woman. I have been raised by amazing women, not only my mother and family members, but also the women that I've been lucky enough to have mentor me throughout my life. And then have trying to pay that forward, and in turn I'm mentoring others and spend a lot of time with mid-career women in technology and maybe underprivileged women that don't have access to things like healthcare and that sort of thing. And so women's health is always top of mind for me, both selfishly for myself, but then also wanting to make sure that I give back in ways that I had given to me.
Thanks so much. Okay. Susan, you've been the director of Women's Health Tech for the last year. Can you tell us a little bit more about the work we do and how to get involved?
Yeah, thank you, Nina, and thanks to HITLAB for giving us this forum. It's really exciting to be here with you and Priscilla to talk a little bit about what we do. So there's a real need to amplify the voices of founders that are disrupting women's health. Only 3% of US digital health deals since 2011 have focused on women's health, and only 2.2% of US venture funding goes to female founders, so we still have work to do. And women's health accounts for just 4% of the overall funding of R&D for healthcare products and services. Yet women are 50% of the population, as Priscilla said, and women make 80% of the healthcare decisions. So to support Femtech, at the Women's Health Tech Initiative, we have 4 different types of events. The first is a Women's Health Tech Wednesday, and every week we present an amazing founder or leader in Femtech. Our events are always posted on YouTube, and Priscilla was interviewed in January, so I'd really encourage all of you to tune in to see those. We have a lot of different networking events throughout the year where we connect the entire ecosystem. And then coming up in May, we're excited to announce our first ever Women's Health Tech Showcase, and we're going to feature rapid fire pitches from 30 of the most impressive startups that are disrupting Femtech. And then finally, towards the end of the year, we have our Women's Health Tech Challenge. We open up applications for that event in September. Last year, we received 125 applications from 35 countries. We have tons of amazing women that get involved in that. Julia Cheek, CEO of Everlywell, was one of our keynotes, as well as Wendy Diamond, who founded the Women's Entrepreneurship Today. And there are tons of ways to get involved with us. We hope that if you aren't already part of our community, you'll join us in whatever way works for you. As a sponsor, a founder, a mentor, we love male allies, or a screening judge. We're privileged to have representation from some of the top VCs and healthcare leaders in the country. So we're building a community of men and women that believe that women should have a seat at the table, especially where women's health issues are concerned.
Perfect. Echoing Susan, we really hope that we'll see more of you at the events. Really looking forward to it. So Priscilla, you and Bayer are doing your part to sponsor Health Tech. Why is women's health important to Bayer?
For a number of reasons, and it's one of the many reasons. If any of you follow me on social media, I'm always bragging about Bayer and the amazing things that they're doing, not just for women, but for health for all and hunger for none. I think from a women's health and a women's tech perspective specifically, there are all sorts of different initiatives, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so happy to be involved with HITLAB on this subject, both personally and on behalf of Bayer. We donate money out of our foundation through philanthropy for, women's feminine hygiene products, access to clean water in developing countries. We have in our consumer health and in our pharmaceutical health divisions, obviously numerous products directed towards women. And one of the exciting things that we're doing now as a company, which I'm really, again, proud of them for doing, is treating sort of the woman on the continuum of her life, as opposed to just jumping in and saying, here, I've got Midol for your cramps, or here, here's birth control because, you're not ready to start your family, etc. And looking at her, capital H, right? Looking at her as someone who goes along life's journey and being there to support the entire continuity of the journey, rather than just jump in from a product perspective and a push perspective, and more kind of understand what women are looking to, what they need, what the gaps in their general health are, and how technology can enable that. And so to work for a company that's kind of putting that first and foremost, along with the other things that they're doing on behalf of women and diversity inclusion and developing countries, is something that that I'm really proud to do, and I'm really proud to collaborate with HITLAB on the same topics.
Wow, Priscilla, you're amazing. We're so lucky to have you doing this with us. I have to tell you, I'm so excited to have your leadership here. Hey, Nina, let me switch it to you. You've been involved in the Women's Health Tech Initiative for some time, and you've been part of our 2 most recent challenges. So what excites you about women's health tech, and why does it matter to you?
Sure. So as I mentioned, I'm just finishing my Master of Public Health degree, and I focused a lot on population and family health and global health. And my academic experience has really opened my eyes to the many, many issues facing women. And women's health can sometimes be looked at as a monolith of sexual and reproductive health services, which is so, so important, but it's also areas like gender-based violence and cancer and bone health and caregiving and mental health and LGBTQI health. And many of these health issues also disproportionately affect vulnerable groups and communities. So there's countless programs and interventions working to improve women's health around the globe. And they're very effective, but oftentimes there's a huge lag between the research done and the direct help that a community, receives. So that's actually on average 17 years. So this space is so ready for innovation, which is why I find Femtech and health tech so exciting. It's fast-paced, it's gaining more traction, and it's making a real difference to so many women around the globe. Excuse me. So Priscilla, let's go back to you for a second. Understanding that the market has changed and thinking about the recent spotlight on social and political disparities of women and minorities, how do you think that impacts women in tech? And do you think it will change how women engage with tech in the future?
It's a great question. And building on what you just said, Nina, 17 years is a really long time. And when you put on top of that the fact that only between 1% and 2% of the startups succeed anyway, it really shines a light on the challenge that any entrepreneur has before you even put any sort of filter, whether that's gender orientation, geographic location, et cetera, over the top of that. What I think the recent kind of social and political and economic topics that have been hot these days, and really it has put a spotlight on women and women in technology in a way that it's going to advance them, hopefully, as part of the hockey puck or the hockey stick that we know for innovation. So there's been a continually increasing movement to support women specifically, to support minorities specifically. But I think because now we've had this sort of this lightning rod topic from the Me Too movement to the different social movements that we've been having around women specifically, it has kind of catalyzed the conversation toward action in a way that it hasn't been there before. And so I think, and I also really love the way that Susan mentioned, having the like the male advocates, right? The narrative around how and why people engage with women in tech and how they support them is really changing and becoming part of kind of the everyday vernacular as opposed to the exception. And I also really like that it's been turned around a little bit as well to say women in tech isn't just women for women by women, right? It's part of this larger conversation about health and about wellness and about just being human. And that takes an entire village to build around that. So I think all of these factors are really playing into the speeding up of the number of women that are now, the increased number of women that are becoming entrepreneurs, the number of female-owned, female-run, female-led companies that are succeeding, and then also the number of women that are going to the top and breaking the glass ceiling. We're seeing more and more of that as well. And I think as long as we continue to lead by example and to support each other as women, and to have advocates outside of our gender circle support us as well, I just see that growing faster and faster. So it's an exciting time. I'm a little envious of you kind of starting out with your graduate degree. Congratulations to you, but it's a great time to be jumping into this industry with fresh eyes.
Thanks so much. So we actually have time for one more question. Susan, can you speak a little bit more about the challenges and opportunities ahead for women's health?
Yeah, sure. I think just kind of continuing on what Priscilla said. So I personally believe that the stigma and misconceptions around women's health are still our biggest hurdle. It's kind of the words we have to use to describe health are really hard: menstrual pain, pelvic floor conditions, menopause, mental health affects men and women, but it's a really, really tough topic. So we have a lot of education to do in this area to the entire healthcare community. Also agreeing with Priscilla that women's health is really working to improve inclusive care for the LGBTQ community. Also what you said, Nina, there's an opportunity for us to really understand culturally competent care. And women's health needs to understand how to support caregivers, especially during COVID. It's largely women. All the chronic diseases are still a big opportunity. We know that heart disease affects women differently. We're seeing more and more companies that are serving the different stages of life. And I'm really optimistic it's blue sky for women's health. And a recent report estimates the global market size for Femtech to be around 60 billion by 2027. So for all of those entrepreneurs tuning in today, we'd like to suggest women's health for you.
Perfect. So I just want to thank both Susan and Priscilla for being here on the panel. And thank you to everyone in the audience. Please follow us on social media and subscribe to our updates at hitlab.org. We have an upcoming rapid pitch showcase, and we really encourage you to join our network of incredible and amazing founders and entrepreneurs. So please contact us for any information about our upcoming events or opportunities to sponsor. We're really looking forward to seeing you all at future events.